Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Dana Louise Williams, and I am your host for this YouTube channel, Evolve Back to Love. And my soul's mission is to bring forward evidential stories and adventures from people that have gone to the other side, experienced divine love, and so much more, and came back to tell us their story. And these stories will inspire you to continue going through your adversities. Do not give up. There is so much more that we don't understand. And today I have a very special guest that did exactly all of those things. He went to the other side, had a crazy, wild adventure, and came back to share his story with us. And today I am so very happy to introduce John Davis from Colorado Springs. John, welcome.
Hi, Dana. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am so excited to do this interview with you today. So thank you
Well,
for having
oh,
me.
you're so welcome. I was on the end of my seat when I listened to your story on Sandra Champlain's radio program called We Don't Die. And for anyone viewing this or listening to it right now, head on over to Sandra's wonderful interview series. She's got something like 270 interviews with people like John. And, out of all the stories that I heard on Sandra's show, John was something very, very unique. And I'm so excited for him to be here with us all today to share his story. So, John, take it away. Go ahead and just start from, when this all began and follow us, take us by the hand and follow us through this adventure.
Okay, very good. I will take you right from the very beginning.
Okay.
When I was 21, I was riding a moped or a scooter, and I had an accident and I hit a tree. And when I landed in such a way that I landed on my hands, and I had to have surgery to have my tendons reattached. So the day of the surgery, I go into the hospital, and they're getting me all prepped, and they start to do the IV line. Well, I had never had any kind of surgery before. I never had any surgery. I did have, well, maybe I had my wisdom teeth taken out, but that wasn't really a surgery like you go into a hospital. This one, when they were going to give me the anesthesia, and the very second they gave me the anesthesia, I could feel it moving through my body. And the next thing I knew, my heart stopped. And what had happened was I had an allergic reaction to the anesthesia. So the strangest thing happened. The last thing I remember, I was in the hospital operating room looking up at the ceiling. Well, I closed my eyes because I died, didn't realize I died. And I opened my eyes in a world that was absolutely foreign to me. And I was looking at a building. The very first building I saw was absolutely beautiful. I was completely out of the hospital and someplace else entirely, and I'll explain how that all went down. When I first opened my eyes, I saw a hallway, an extraordinarily long corridor or long hallway that was as far down as I could see. I couldn't see an ending to it, but it was beautiful. It was made of marble. It was clean. It was absolutely the most pristine kind of marble you've ever seen in your life, how this hallway was built. It was this corridor structure. And see if you can picture this in your mind, because I don't have any illustrations of it yet. So see if you can kind of picture this. If you're standing in a hallway, on the left-hand side of you, there were doorways or hallways that went down all the way down this corridor as far as you could see. And it looked like they had been perfectly cut out of the marble. Just beautiful. They were about 4 feet apart, these doorways. One doorway was here, one doorway was here, one doorway all the way down. Looked like there could have been thousands and thousands of these beautiful doorways. To the right of the doorway, there was a table. And each one of these doorways had these corresponding tables about 4 or 5 feet in front of them, all the way down for as far as you could see. And sitting at these tables were 2 people. Some were 2 women, some were 2 men, some were men and women all together, but they were what were called counselors or orientators. And as this whole experience started to unfold, I was having somebody tell me what was going on, what I was looking at, what I was seeing. And I didn't know what was happening. I just went with it because I heard this voice telling me, this is what's happening, this is what you're seeing, this is what you're looking at. And I had completely forgotten that I had gone to the hospital for surgery. So that's how it started. Well, the voice told me to look inside this tunnel or this doorway. Well, the one that was right next to me, I looked in, and what I could see was space, like stars and galaxies. It was absolutely beautiful. It was like magic. It was a magical kind of feeling. And off to the right were 2 women sitting at this table. And it was, again, a marble table with 4 benches on each side. To the right of the marble table, there were these huge Romanesque Greek-looking columns. And they were probably 20 feet high and maybe 10 or 15 apart from each other. And the voice said, look in the tunnel. So I looked in the tunnel, and there was a man coming through, and he was holding his chest like this, pulling himself through the door, and holding his chest like what we do if we have a heart attack. Well, I was told that this man had died from having a heart attack. So what ended up happening is when I was having my near-death experience, I passed the white light experience that people talk about, and I passed through the tunnel that people talk about, and I was on the other side of that. So when a lot of people talk about their near-death experience, they're seeing the tunnel. Well, I could actually see the other side of the tunnel and see what was there. So this man was holding his chest, coming through the tunnel, and he was probably in his 80s, maybe 85, 86, something like that, and he had died from having a heart attack. So the minute he came through, one of these women stood up, grabbed him by the hands, and sat him down at this table. And this whole time I was just wondering, what am I looking at? It's absolutely so beautiful. But the voice was telling me just to listen, and I could see this woman's mouth moving, but I couldn't hear what she was saying. And she was holding his hands the entire time and talking to him. What the voice told me was that she was a counselor, and one of her jobs was to help people who were coming back from a lifetime and had forgotten that they had been in a lifetime. So her job was to be an orientator or a counselor and say, you just came back from a lifetime, your lifetime finished, you've passed, you've died in that lifetime, and now you're coming home. Well, the most extraordinary part when I was watching this, as she was holding his hands, his whole appearance began to change. And he changed from someone who was in his 80s to someone who was in his late 20s or 30s. And I could see that happening right before my eyes. It was absolutely amazing. And the voice said, there is no aging and there is no death on this side. So that's people's natural age is 28, 29, 30, 40, something like that on the other side. Well, then the next thing that happened is he stood up and he walked to the right past that big column. Well, as I looked past the column, I could see that there was beautiful, incredible gardens. And what I was told is that those were reunion gardens. And I didn't know what that meant until I was able to look past the column and see where he went. Where he went was to reunite with all the people that had gone before him, whether it was his parents, his grandparents, if he lost any children or friends and other family members, they were all there to greet him when he passed over. So how it works, and this is what I understood after I came back and after doing some further research and talking to other NDEers, is when we die, we see the white light, we see the tunnel, and the tunnel was what I could see from the other side. That white light was the light coming from the other side down that tunnel. And it was to lead people. They're supposed to follow that light to lead them to the end of that doorway where they meet these counselors. And I was just blown away. So that was the first one that happened. And somehow somebody must have known that I was going to cross over at this time. I don't know, because the whole thing was organized. And what happened is it showed me the outside of the building before I was shown the inside. So with the orientation center, are you familiar with the Greek Parthenon building?
Yes. Yes.
And how it's got the steps and it's got the columns that are up on the top?
Yes.
That's what this building looked like. But it was perfect. Nothing was out of place. It was absolutely just beautiful. And that's how I saw people cross from the other side, or cross from Earth to the other side, and how they get orientated. The next thing I was shown was a building that was round, and it looked like what the Romans had built was called a Pantheon. And the Pantheon was the first building in history that had a round dome on top. So when I looked at this building from the outside, they were showing me the outside of the building. It had the columns all around it, but it had a dome on top. That's what this one looked like as compared to the Parthenon. Well, this one was the building that we plan our lives in. Every one of us goes to this building to plan our lives. Our lifetimes aren't just arbitrary. We actually plan and write them out. We specify who we're going to marry if we're going to get married. We specify where we're going to go to college if we go to college. We specify things like where we're going to be born into. Are we going to be born into Africa, North America, Europe, Asia? All of those kinds of details go into planning a lifetime. Wow. And we have spirit guides. I'm sorry?
Well, I'm just, wow.
Yeah. And we have spirit guides that help us plan our lifetimes. And they help us plan the major things that we want to experience. And also the major things that we want to learn. So for example, if you want to learn how to love more, you would plan a lifetime that you would come into to do just that. Or if you wanted to learn how to be more humble, or if you wanted to learn how to be more patient, everybody has these major themes that they plan, that they come in life to learn more.
I love the way you said that, John, because that, with the work that I do, I have so many people that they get all in a tizzy because they think they don't know what their soul's mission is. And what their soul's mission is whatever their adversity is, whatever the theme of, what they struggle with, right? So I love the way you said that, because we make it so difficult. We think that, we're imperfect, but we're actually perfect. We're expanding out through that adventure of adversity to come through the other side. But you ended up on the other side watching people come through. I just think that's so... I've never heard that vantage point explained before. So please continue. It's just so amazing to listen to your story.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. I do think people come in with those themes, and that's what they're working on, the ones that are the hardest for them. Okay, so the most Okay, next I want to get to the next building they showed me. They took me to a building that was the largest one that I had seen so far. It was absolutely gigantic. And it looked like the Roman Parthenon, although it was 10 times bigger than that. It had the stairs. It probably had 20 or 30 stairs leading up to the top. And then again, it had the columns up there. So everything that I saw was Romanesque, Greek looking. And I don't know why that is. Maybe because the traditional looking buildings were so beautiful. I don't know, but they were absolutely pristine. So when I was looking at it from the outside, I had no idea what it was. Then when they took me in the inside, then I knew. Then I could see that this was a library. And the library was probably 3 or 4 stories high, full of books. And what I was told was that this building contained all knowledge, knowledge of everything. And when you were in it, any place that you wanted to go or anything that you wanted to study, all you had to do was think about it, and it would take you there. And I was just flabbergasted at how beautiful it was. But the best part about this was that on each side, on the sides of this building, there were rooms, and they were probably maybe 10 feet by 15 feet, and they were called viewing rooms. And I had no idea what that meant. But then the voice said, "Look to your left." Well, as I looked to my left, there was a woman sitting in one of these viewing rooms, and she had straight jet black hair that went down to her lower back, and she was watching something like a video on a video screen. And I didn't know what this was. And the voice said, "Go closer." So as I went closer, I could see that this woman was watching, and this is all from the back. I didn't see her from the front. I just saw her from the back. And she was watching a CD or video of an event in our history during the Native Americans and the cavalry during the Plains Wars. And I thought to myself, how can this be real? How can she be watching something that actually happened in history when we didn't even have any recordings? We didn't have any recorders or video cameras back then. How could this be? And the voice said, everything that happens in the past has been recorded. And so I thought, she's actually watching history as it happened. She was curious about that part of history on the earth. And so she was watching it. Well, here's the best part. Not only are we allowed to just simply go in there and watch history, but we can put in these CDs of a particular period that we want to watch. Like, for example, if you wanted to go and learn about the Normandy invasion during World War II, you could put in this CD, you could watch the video, but not only watch it, but there's a place that you can go where you can actually step in to live history. Nobody can see you, of course, but you're still stepping into live history where you can see everything, smell everything, touch everything, what it was really like.
Wow.
So think how amazing that would be, of all the different scenarios that you could step into, that you could be curious about. And you could even step into your own past as a viewer and look at your life when you were a young girl or an adolescent or a parent or whatever, what have you. It was just absolutely incredible. And that's what the library had. The next thing that they showed me is, and this was another amazing part of this whole episode also, the next building they took me to was a castle. And this was a castle that was just like the castles are in England. They were built out of stone hundreds of years ago. And so I was first looking at the castle, and it was huge. It's absolutely a huge, huge castle. And the idea was that anybody could go to this castle if they were interested in this particular part of history and see what it was like. Because a lot of the other side, or a lot of what people call heaven or the other side, is about learning, is about knowledge. That's a huge aspect of what we all do over there. We don't just sit around on a cloud playing a harp. We actually are involved in doing so many different types of activities. Well, anyway, this castle had a drawbridge, and the voice said, "Go inside." So I went inside the castle through the drawbridge, and it was huge on the inside. And on these walls, there were pictures. Actually, there were paintings. The walls had paintings of past royals, like queens or kings and princesses and princes. All around the top of this whole castle were these different paintings. And it was like walking into a museum, because in front of each picture or in front of each painting, and by the way, the painting had exactly what they looked like, and the painting depicted what they wore during that time in history. So not only could you see what they looked like, but you could see what they wore too. You can see how a history buff could get really excited about all this. And I love history. I think history is fascinating. But there was so much more than just looking at history. But anyway, in front of every painting, there was a podium. And on top of the podium was a book. And it looked like if you had flipped open a Bible and laid it on a podium, that's what it looked like. And this book, I found out, every single one of them have these books. And what the books are the accountings of their entire life. Wow. And it wasn't just, and it wasn't just what they did. It was their conversations and what they said, and also what their belief systems were during that time when they were a king or a queen. So if you wanted to go see and read about King Henry VIII and what he did, you could step in front of his painting, look at his podium and look at his book, and read all about his life. Now here's the thing that happened that I still regret to this day. And you might remember this from listening to Andrew Champlain's show. I think I mentioned it there.
Yes, you did.
As I was in there looking around, I looked off to my right, and there was this huge staircase. And I guess in a lot of castles they had staircases. So anyway, this woman came walking down the staircase, and I remember this vividly. She was wearing a red gown with a golden type of sash and kind of like reddish brown sandals, and she had long brown hair. And I looked over at her, and she could see me, and she said, "Is there anything I can help you find?" Well, I was so shocked. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know where I was, first of all. And here this woman is, she could actually see me. And instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, yes, where am I? What is your name? What am I doing here? What is happening? What am I looking at?" All I said was, "Oh, no thanks, I'm just looking around." So just like what you do when you go to a store and somebody asks if you can help. No, I'm okay. I'm just looking around. Thank you very much. And then she walked away. I had a perfect opportunity, and I totally blew it. But anyway, that's what the castle was. Okay, here was the next part. Have you ever been to a planetarium?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know what they look like. They're big round buildings, and you walk in, and they're full of seats. And all the different activity happens up on the ceiling. That's where they show all the stars and all the planets and all of that. Well, the next thing I saw was a planetarium. They showed me the outside, and it was a round building. And then it was brought in, and it was full of seats. And there must have been thousands of seats inside this building. And the lights were on. and I heard a voice say, "Please begin." So the lights went off, and I sat down. And there was somebody behind me, beside the voice that was guiding me during this whole period. There was another voice that said, "When you look at the stars, this is what you see," meaning me, meaning all of us. So the lights went off. When you look at the stars, this is what you see. And it showed our solar system, and it showed our planets, Venus, Uranus, Jupiter, Mars. All those planets showed up, along with a picture of our Milky Way galaxy. Then the voice said, "When we look at the stars," meaning all the people who are on the other side and in other galaxies, they said, "When we look at the stars, this is what we see." And all of a sudden, one planet after another started popping up on the top of the screen, until it got to be hundreds and hundreds of planets, then thousands and thousands of planets, and then thousands and thousands of galaxies. And the voice said, "There is much more to life than you know." And I was flabbergasted. I had so many questions, but I didn't have any time to have any questions answered before I was whisked away again. Mm. So that was the planetarium. The next building they took me to looked like a theater. It was round, and on the inside of this building, there were screens, like movie screens, one in the front, on the side, all the way around in a big circle, all around me. And I was told that this was the Life Review building. And so as I was watching, I could start to see different episodes of my life appearing on this screen, or on all of these screens at the same time. They had screens of me as a child, screens of me as a toddler, screens of me as an adolescent, as a high school student, college, getting married, all the way the whole long. It was called the Life Review building. And a lot of NDEers experience that. And I was fortunate enough to experience it too, in a lot of detail. They actually have a building for it that looks like a theater with all the different screens on top. And that was just amazing to me. The next thing that I saw, they took me to these fields where, if you love to play sports, they had miles and miles of athletic fields. I don't know, did you ever like playing sports growing up?
My children did.
Okay. Yeah, my kids play basketball.
Soccer, basketball.
Yeah, I played soccer too. Well, all these fields, you can play any kind of sport that you want to play, whether it's lacrosse or soccer or football or rugby or golf or anything. And what is so extraordinary is, because we don't have lungs over there, we don't get tired. So if you wanted to play rugby all day, if that was your favorite sport, and all you wanted to do was play rugby, you could play all day long. And it was just the most glorious feeling, because if you weren't good at sports when you were a kid, you can be good at sports over there as an adult.
Wow.
And you can play sports, and nobody judges you. You can just play and have fun. It was absolutely incredible. I also saw, when I was there, I saw all the animals that I had growing up. And I had dogs and cats. And that made me realize that, oh my gosh, that's kind of when I started to believe that, okay, I must have died. But
at this point, you're thinking, okay.
Yeah, because before then, I didn't know what was going on. I thought maybe it was just something to do with the anesthesia. I didn't know where I was. But then when I saw my past animals, I thought, okay, something must have happened because I can see all the animals that I've ever had, cats and dogs and even a horse. And all those animals are there. All the animals you've ever had that you've ever loved are there. And they're not sick, they're not old, they don't die. Nobody dies there. And when I was looking at the animals, the voice said, "We have no illness and no aging here." So it was amazing that all your pets, even if they live to be really old, they're young and just like they were when you had them when you were a kid.
Mm.
And I thought that was, I just thought that was so incredibly comforting to see that. The next thing they did is there's a building there that is kind of like the past or the life review building, but it's actually devoted to past lifetimes. I don't know if you're a believer in past lifetimes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good, because I never was until I saw this. And it convinced me that there are definitely past lifetimes. And there's a building that we can go to where they have a screen. It's a really large screen. It's not the ones where they're in a big circle. It's not those. That was the life reviews. This one was the past life. And they showed me 3 different past lifetimes that I had had. And I was just amazed because the first one, I was a monk. And I was wearing a red gown and my head was shaved. And in that lifetime, I was a monk that was in charge of teaching young children in the monastery. And I was just amazed because, of course, it didn't look anything like me, but I knew that that was me in a past lifetime. The next one they did is they showed me that, and that one was somewhere in Asia, that lifetime.
Okay.
The next lifetime, I was actually a shoe peddler. I was the guy that fixed shoes. And this was hundreds of years ago, and it was in Russia. And I pushed a wheelbarrow, and the wheelbarrow was full of shoes that I had fixed. And I would take that wheelbarrow, and I would go all around town and drop them off to the different people that were using me to fix their shoes. And I remember as they were showing this, I was pushing this on a kind of like a cobblestone street. So it was just amazing. And the last one they showed me was as a fisherman somewhere in Greece. And in Greece, I had a net that I would throw. I was on a boat, like a rowboat, and I had a net that I would throw out and try to catch the fish back that way. So I had 3 lifetimes. So I was just amazed. The very do you have any questions? I know.
I'm just enthralled with this segment here because this is new to me. And you knew it didn't look like you, but you knew it was you. And is there a thread of why you were shown those specific lifetimes? Because I suspect you had many, many more. But is there something significant that you can put together about those 3?
I never thought of that. I didn't know why they showed me those 3 because I thought they were so completely different. And I believe you when you say that you suspect that people have more lifetimes. I think that's true too. From my experience, I think people can have numerous lifetimes because there's so much that can be learned. But I never really thought about if those 3 had some kind of a connection. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, if you look at the 3, they're all very humble, real people lifetimes, right? There's a thread to it where there's this humility. You're teaching children as a monk. You're doing a very, very valid service for your village, with the shoes. And then fishing, like there's a theme here of working for the people. You're You're just a real regular person. You're not, some power wielding, governor of, the village. You're just humble,
Right.
right? And here you are in
You
this
know what?
lifetime, humbly presenting us with food for our soul.
I never thought about that. That is really interesting perspective because you're right. All three of those lives were lives where I was working just as a regular citizen.
Hmm. And look at how
I,
important you are in Colorado Springs. This conversation is going to go around the world. You're feeding the souls of people that
I
really need to know this.
I'm so glad that this helps people because I never thought that it did. And I would just tell one person I would just tell individuals, and then the whole internet craze happened, and realized that maybe I could tell others, and it would help them.
Hmm.
Well, here's the last part, and this is the from what I maybe you can help me understand this too, but the last part of this whole experience was after they showed me the past lifetimes. They took me to a field, and I was standing there, and the field was beyond beautiful. If you can picture the most beautiful field you have ever seen, it was 100 times more than that. It was tall grass, and the grass was so green, and the flowers had colors that I had never even seen before. Just absolutely stunning and beautiful. Well, as I was standing there, a man walked up to me, and he was very different than the other people I had seen. The other people weren't didn't seem to have a light around them. This person seemed to have a light that was so bright that I couldn't see his face. I knew it was a man, but I couldn't see his face because there was so much light coming from it. But I could see that he was wearing a white robe, a white gown. And incidentally, when I was in that um, building where they had past lifetimes, I asked I asked the voice, why is it that a lot of the people are wearing some kind of robe or some kind of gown? And the voice said because it was the most comfortable, but that people could wear anything they wanted. So people could wear gowns or they could wear jeans, whatever they thought was most comfortable. Well, anyway, with this person that was standing in front of me, he had a white sash on, or like a white robe on, and a golden colored sash, and he was wearing golden colored sandals. And this was probably the shortest one of all of the experiences that I had. And as I looked there at him, he raised his hands like this, and he said, "You must tell them there is no death." And the very second that happened, I was whooshed away back into the hospital, and I woke up in the hospital operating room. And I had no idea what had happened until a couple weeks later that I had had a near-death experience. Well, here's the thing. Because that person was such a bright light and was a male, I don't know who that was, but I think it may have been Jesus. Because I have heard other people tell them their stories that Jesus has come to them too. But even if it wasn't Jesus, it was a very powerful, very loving individual. Mm-hmm. Because all I felt come from him was just pure love. Mm. And I didn't want to go back. Mm. So I think that's why I wasn't given an option of, do you want to go back or do you want to stay? Because I have read about that in other past life experiences that people have been given the option. And almost invariably, unless they have young children, they want to go. but the ones that have young children typically want to stay for their kids. Well, I wasn't given a choice. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I had given a choice, I would have wanted to stay there because of all the different things you could do, especially all the sports and all the different types of learning and all the different fun you can have. And nobody ages and nobody gets ill. Nobody dies there. And the part that was, I think, my favorite part was that part about the planetarium when they showed all the different planets in all the different galaxies. And I had a sense there, and the voice didn't say this, but I had a sense that we could incarnate, have a lifetime in different galaxies, not just here on the Earth. So anyway, in a nutshell, I guess that was my whole near-death experience.
Wow. And how long were you out for, John?
They told me that I was actually dead for less than 4 minutes.
Wow.
So it seemed like I was there for over an hour. That's what I would have told somebody. I was there for over an hour. How could you possibly say that I had actually experienced dying for less than 4 minutes? But I realized that there's no time there. And what was so fascinating is when I was there, I realized that a lifetime could be 80 or 90 years when you're down here. But the perspective on the other side is you're only gone for a couple of weeks. That's how the time works.
Wow.
So that's why there's a lot of people when they pass over, they're not necessarily grieving for the ones that have passed over. The people that have passed, like let's say your grandma has crossed over, for example. She isn't necessarily grieving for you because in her perspective, you're going to be there in a very short period of time. But to us, it seems like, 30, 40, 50 years we've got to stay here. So the whole aspect of time was another part that just totally blew me away.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I've got a question for you. I've researched this subject for many years, and my question is, well, maybe I'll premise it first. What I've heard other NDE experiencers say is that whatever your picture is of heaven, like if your picture of heaven is there's golden gates and, a bearded God kind of thing, there's an impression of what we create of what we think heaven is. And in some cases, it will be what we think it is. Now, my question to you is, did you ever have an affinity for Greek mythology or the Greek or Roman times or the architecture? Because I'm curious if that's why your experience was presented in that way.
I have heard that too. That's a really good question. The only experience that I had with Romanesque type of buildings and Greek structures is when I took an art history class in college. And we looked at those through art history.
Now, okay.
But I have never...
Okay, but listen, let's go on a little timeline here. So this happened to you when you were 21?
Yep, when I was 21.
So it would have been in sort of like within that vicinity of years that you would have been studying that history.
Well, actually, I didn't go to college until in my late 20s.
Oh, okay. So you hadn't even had the historical knowledge.
Perspective.
So
that's
interesting. That came later.
Yeah. I hadn't had any experiences with that before I saw those buildings.
Okay.
And I was thinking, I wonder if the Romans and the Greeks had built those buildings after getting that kind of inspiration from the other side?
Mm.
I've always wondered that and how that would work.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question, and I have heard the same thing, that many times we can, during the near deathers experience, that if they think there's supposed to be cities there, they will see them. What I've heard is that their guides can create those for them until they get orientated over there. But what I saw, and this is something that I had a hard time understanding it until I was there. Everything is solid there. I had always thought, because I grew up as a Catholic, we used to go to Mass 3 times a week, all the time until I was about 13 or 14. So I had no idea what anything looked like. But over there, everything is solid. We have real bodies. Even though the real bodies don't have organs, because we don't need organs there, there's still energy bodies that we have, and you can recognize each other just like we can here, and you can have conversations with people, and you can talk and do things. But there's also a solidness. It's not like clouds. I know a lot of people think that you must just have your whole existence living in a ball of light, an energy of light, and that's not the case. At least what I saw when I was in that building where people planned their lifetimes, the one that had the domed roof on it, there were tables in there. And I don't know if maybe I didn't explain this part, but there were tables. And what I saw were 2 scrolls. One scroll had a blue ribbon on it, and the other scroll had a red ribbon on it. And I opened up one of these scrolls, and it had writing on it. And it was writing like in calligraphy. You know how you have black calligraphy writing and it's really pretty? Well, when I went to go and read that, it's folded up again. Well, the voice told me that every time anybody comes into life, there's a specific reason for it. And we chart it, and we put it on these scrolls. So the reason I wasn't able to read my scroll was because it would mess up the tests that I had set for myself. And everybody who comes into a lifetime writes on these scrolls if they want to be male or female, what their goals are, what they want to achieve. Are they going to have kids? Are they going to get married? Where are they going to live? What part of the world are they going to incarnate into? So it was just absolutely fantastic. And so I couldn't see the scroll. I couldn't see what my life was supposed to be about. And that's what everybody's is they're not supposed to be able to see it so that they don't mess up their own tests.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but that was a great question.
Yeah. Well, it's so magical that, of course, we have to forget. We have to get tapped with the wand of amnesia as soon as we take our first breath, because if we remembered all of that, we'd say, I don't think so. I don't want to go there. That's so
exactly
dense.
Yeah.
It's so, myopic. It's so 3-dimensional, right? But my personal belief is that we're all here as volunteers to experience certain themes of adversity. And when we heal our theme of adversity, it ripples out to a grid code of group mind that lives around the planet Earth. And that grid code, that thread of whatever it is that we heal around our grid code, I see it like the rings of Saturn. I recently did a little 24-minute teaching on how I see that. It's almost like, if you have a broken heart, the emanation that goes out into your energy field has a code to it. And it's kind of invisible, but, people can feel it. You know, people that are empathic or, you know, highly sensitive people. You can feel a person's wounds almost. And, you know, I see it like the rings of Saturn. As I understand the rings of Saturn, that the rings around Saturn are caused by the gases that are emanated out of the planet. Now, if we think of each person on the planet as they are emanating a code of whatever their adversity is that they haven't healed yet, and that's part of their soul's mission, that's on the little scroll that we, you know, that's rolled up under our arm that we come into this life with. Of course, we're tapped with the wand of amnesia because we are here in this time on the planet to heal. And when we heal our adversity with the code that's around our personal planet, that emanation now heals a thread from group mind, right? It's like, you know, it's like people are healing. Look at Anita Morjani. Her mission was to die of stage 4 cancer, have all her major organs shut down, and go to the other side, visit with her father, and all have that adventure that she had, come back. Now that group mind idea of cancer has now been changed on some level, right? So, you know, so like your journey is changing our thread grid code of death, of the belief of death. And on that note,
Yeah.
you know, before our interview, I was guided to share the acronym. Like I get acronyms from Spirit, and I get downloads when I'm working with my clients, and I draw folk art drawings to show the person what I'm seeing, and their subconscious just drops down into their filing cabinet drawers, and we find the creation story of how that person can heal that code. And I believe that we're all here to lose the fear of death, because when somebody that we love dies and we suffer, we should be celebrating that they're there, you know, and they're in their joyful, you know, expansion of love that we can't remember, right? Now the acronym I was given for death is the date energy allows the homecoming. So basically, we're just going home, right? So why should we be worried about death? It's like, you know, I believe that like we're here on this planet and we're all unpacking a big black suitcase to prepare for that journey back home. And as we unpack our black suitcase, which was our soul's mission in this lifetime, to heal whatever that certain adversity is, whether it's, you know, scarcity consciousness or fear and anxiety of not being good enough, whatever our theme is, right? You know, we're unpacking, we're deciding, okay, what am I going to bring to heaven with me? Am I going to bring my fear with me? Am I going to bring my money with me? Am I going to bring, you know, my beautiful car with me? No, you're not going to bring any of that with you. You're unpacking the material world that we have been hypnotized to believe is so real, when really it's not.
Absolutely. That is, everything you said is so true. I believe exactly the same way. It's all of those things are. They're not real. They're not even pertinent to what we're here for.
Mm-hmm. Now here, I've got another question for you. Did you believe that everything I just said was true to you if you were to go back in time before this 21-year-old near-death experience?
No, I wouldn't have believed any of it. Yeah, I didn't have any experience with that. When I was 21, I was still going to the Catholic Church maybe once a month at that time. So I definitely hadn't been exposed to any of this yet. I was just starting to get, once I had that near-death experience, that's what really kicked everything off for me. And it took me a couple of years to even believe that past lifetimes actually were real. Not to mention that heaven or the other side is really real. So my experience changed a whole lot of things for me. I didn't have very much knowledge about that before I had the near-death experience.
Mm. And so, can you talk a little bit about how your Catholic belief system changed? I'm suspecting it was affected by this near-death experience.
Oh yeah. Well, I thought that what you were supposed to do when you were younger was to go out and get a job and just do that job your entire life. Maybe have kids, maybe not have kids, and try to get promotions and focus all of your life on your work. And in the meantime, try to have fun by taking vacations. And I wasn't particularly interested in humanity as a whole, or spirituality, or trying to help people who might be hurting. After my experience, I realized that this earth is not the only thing there is. In fact, this earth is almost an illusion in terms of what is really real. And when you look at your lifetime as being such a short period of time, because on the other side, a lifetime, if you live for 90 years, that's just a blink of an eye on the other side. And so I learned and realized that our mission here is to help others as much as we can. And just like you said, I'm not taking my car with me. I'm not going to take my house with me. I'm not going to take my money with me. So what is really important? And what it boils down to is the things that really do make a difference in trying to help others. Like this show that you do. What a great way to help others. And me trying to share this as much as I can because I've been told by others that it has helped them. So that has given me encouragement to try to share it with more people in the hopes that it can help them too. So my whole outlook changed from one of being just self-centered and focusing only on me to realizing that we are here to try to help others. Because like you said, we could go at any time. We don't know how long we're going to be here. We could just be here for a short time, and that we're actually supposed to try to help as many people as we can while we're here. I heard a story about an NDEer not too long ago who, when she had her near-death experience, when she crossed over, she was asked, "What did you do for humanity?" And she didn't have an answer for that yet. So she came back. But she was asked that question, "What did you do for humanity?" So we are here to help others as much as we can.
And there I keep seeing your 3 lifetimes that you were shown. There's that thread, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're humbly doing your version for humanity. Even though in those lifetimes you were in a little village and you were doing it, for a smaller population, but here you are, and this interview is going to go, to many, many countries and many, many people. So thank you so much for sharing with us, John. Really appreciate it.
Then my pleasure. It was so much fun to be on your show. I so enjoyed it, and I so enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, it was fun. Are you going to write a book or do a movie, or you got anything in the wings here? Maybe you'll be approached by some writers, or because I've never heard this story told from that doorway before. It's usually
Yeah.
So I think there's.
I don't know. I'll probably be reaching out to you again to ask for your advice on what I could do next to reach out to more people.
Yeah, well, let's let this like I find well, I just share with you how it works for me. Um, I it's like building a bridge where you run out of wood for a little while, and then all of a sudden a bunch of wood is there, and you can keep building the bridge, right? It's like with the
Right.
solar healing method. I have I every day I get more complete with what it actually is, and I am wowed by it, and I couldn't possibly figure it out, but I didn't get downloaded the whole solar healing method in one sit down. It's come in over 13 years. And
No.
so it's kind of like we've just started building a bridge here of where it's going to unfold for you in another way that you're going to be more visible, or your adventure is going to continue. Perhaps in your dream time you'll get more information. We don't know. Like it's like there's a
Right.
really cool foundation here, and I suspect that the fat lady hasn't finished singing yet, and there's going to be a lot more of the opera happening for us to witness and view. So
That's
I like that idea. So yes, let's definitely stay in touch, and I'm absolutely here if you want to brainstorm, and perhaps we can do another interview down the road if people are really excited about what this brings up for them, because everybody was on an adventure. I know myself, I was on an adventure listening to it with you and Sandra Champlain on her radio show, We Don't Die. And any of you out there that are grieving, or you're wanting more of this subject, she is just an absolutely amazing resource. And
yes.
I'm going to be meeting Sandra in September. I'm going to be at the AREI symposium. It's the Afterlife symposium. It happens once a year, and I'm so excited. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to meet a bunch of really cool people that I've already interviewed. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
fantastic.
so the game will continue, John. I'm really excited that I've heard about you, and this is so amazing. Um, and so let me just ask you this one question before we close. So you've had this story steeping, and you've told, friends one at a time, in intimate conversation. Sandra Champlain was the first time you shared it live on any kind of radio show, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so now, how many years are we fast forwarding since you were 21?
Well, I'm 53 now, so it's been over 20 years since I had the experience.
Yeah.
And you know what's so strange about it is I remember it like it was just yesterday.
Yes. Yes.
That's the part that's so crazy. None of it has ever left me. It's strong. That memory is still there, as strong as it ever was.
And I suspect that if we were to see your little scroll that you talked about with the little ribbon around it, if we pulled that scroll out today, we'd probably see in fine print at the bottom of the scroll that this was the perfect time for you to tell your story. Because if you would have started trying to tell this story 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, people would have thought you were crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I thought that's why I only ever told people that I actually knew, or
yes.
people that had lost someone.
Yeah.
Mostly I would tell people that had lost somebody, and I would tell them, I had this experience that told me that nobody ever really dies. But I never had a theater like your show, for example, to share this with. So I really hope that it does help people, and it helps people to have courage and to, like you said earlier, to fight on and to not give up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up. And yeah, and because when I look at the times now, even when I first started doing this work, and that was only 13 years ago, I always knew I was a healer. I always knew since the time I was 5 years old. But I kept myself in the closet with that knowing. And even 13 years ago, mind you, I was fully prepared to come out and do what I'm doing as, the work that I do privately with my clients. But there's a lot of people out there that are not there yet, even today. So, I think it's the perfect time for you to, come out of the curtain, and here's John Davis telling us this crazy great story. And I want to just thank you once again for being brave and sharing your story with us all.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. I so enjoyed it.
Yes, indeed. Myself as well, John. Now, if anybody wanted to reach out and share something with you, would you be open to that?
Sure, I can give you my Facebook and my email address.
Okay, that's a great idea because Facebook is such a platform for people, to if they want to, talk about their experience of watching this. I think that would be brilliant.
Yeah, my Facebook is really easy. It's just John J. Davis. And then my email address is J and C as in Sherry Davis, then the number 4 at msn.com. So just J and C Davis 4 at msn.com. And I'd be happy to answer any questions from anybody.
Beautiful. And my name is Dana Louise Williams. You can go to my website, www.danalouisewilliams.com. And if you're interested in perhaps working with me privately, please reach out. My email address is dana@danalouisewilliams.com. And if you go to my website, there's a free little ebook that I wrote just for you. And I wrote it in exactly the same way that I talk. It's just, there's metaphors and there's a nice creative way to release anxiety and fear and all those things that hold us back. So thank you everyone for watching this and listening to John's beautiful adventure. And we will see you next time on Evolve Back to Love series. Bye for now.